This morning I got a question down in the comment section of proportions. How do I come up with proportions for these figures? I told him that I would answer that on the blog because I think a lot of you might have questions about that. And it was a good question, so let me just explain on what I do to get the proportions that I have on my carvings. We'll use beets here as an example, and then I'll use the pattern here as the second example. Okay, an artist doing, not that I'm an artist, an artist doing realistic figures uses a rule, normally the rule of 8. 8 heads make up the length of the body. In other words, it's divided up into 8 heads, counting up, okay? Well, this is a caricature, so we can't really use that scale. We have to come up with our own. So, the way I look at it, if you look at the body looks fairly well in proportion to a realistic body. All right? So let's just say from here down is 7 heads. And then we'll figure this one out, okay? So if I get my rule out, one of these pockets, and I measure him from the ground to the top of his shoulders, that comes to about 12 foot. So if I divide, using my calculator here, being retired, I don't have to use paper and pencil anymore. If I divide 12 inches divided by 7 equals 1.7 inches. So let's say 1.5 inches, all right? So that would make his head 1.5 inches if we use the realistic artist scale. Well, let's measure his head. Well, we can't count the top of his hat, but we'll count the top of his head, which would be about right there, and that comes to about 3 inches. So, if it's 1.5 inches here, 7 1/2 inches, this head is twice as big as it should be. Well, it's a caricature, that's okay. So I make my heads twice as large as they actually should be if I was doing a realistic figure. Now, for the arms, let's take the arms as another example. First off, let me stand up here a second. My arm, when I hang it relaxed, comes to about right here. Remember how a tailor measures your suit? He measures it to the bottom of your hand. Well, that's just about right there. Now, if you look at Dietz here, that's just about where his hand falls. So this was 12 inches, and if we measure his arm, it's 6 inches, basically. So my length to my top of my shoulders is 64 inches. The length of my arm hanging relaxed from my shoulder is 36 inches. So 36 and 36 is 72. So it's just about realistically as long here, maybe a little longer, as it would be with a realistic figure. So the way I look at it, the bottom portion of the body is fairly realistic. The only thing really enlarged to a large degree is the head. Now the arms and hands are enlarged a little bit, but not a lot, just a little bit. So that's how I figure come up with my proportions. To the waist, it's 7 1/4 inches. So it's just a little over half from here to here on up to the top of his neck. I hope that's clear to you. But in figuring the arm, it comes to just about where it would in a realistic figure or in real life. Okay? Naturally, the hands are bigger, the arms might be a little more bulky, but if I took that head off of there, see, that's basically a realistic figure. It's only when I add the head does it become a caricature. And that's fine, that's the way I like it. Because that way I can do all kinds of realistic detail in here and it fits in perfectly. But again, just like this fella here, you know, the gun's much larger than it would be in real life. But that's okay, it's a caricature, and I want to emphasize that gun. And a lot of times you'll see a figure of mine, if he held this gun in his hand, it might look a little small. If Dietz held that gun he's wearing in his hands, it would be way too small. If he drank out of that canteen looks good because it's in scale with the lower part of the body. But if he held it up to his mouth, it would be about half the size that it would have to be if it was in scale with his head. Okay? So anyway, using this figure now, this figure is 10 inches tall. So let's just do some arithmetic here. 10 inches divided by 7 equals 1.42. Okay, 1.42, let's say 1.5 inches, and 1.5 inches is 3 inches. We got 10 inches for the body. The head is 3 inches. So again, this head is twice as big as the body. The arm is about 5 1/4, 5.5 inches. From 10 inches, it's about, in relationship to that 8-head principle, it's in that scale. So this figure is basically the same as that figure there, except it is 2 inches shorter in the body. And we can see that just by these two guys standing next to each other. Dietz is a lot taller than the other fellow. Okay, hope that's clear. If you have any questions on that, just send me a note. All righty. Turn off my calculator. Wish I would have had one of those when I was in school. So let's get back to this hand. Judy, move that camera over here, please. Okay, here we go. All right, when I cut this out and whittled it so far, I was pretty lucky and I hit it just right up here about where this arm fits against this body. Sometimes I have to shave this off here at an angle to bring the body out or to move the body in or whatever. But this time I hit it just about right. I'm going to sand this off perfectly flat so it matches that up there, but I'll do that in here just a minute. Right now what I want to do, before I go any farther, is I want to position this arm where I want it on the body and go ahead and drill my hole for the dowel, which is going to hold it to the body, to where I can position it and mark it on what I have to carve before I glue this thing together, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this around until I get it just where I want it. I want enough wood in front here to where it's going to give me a little excess that I can carve off to make it match the body. And I definitely want enough wood in the back also to carve off. And as you can see, I have plenty of wood back there. I can move this arm quite a ways forward and still have plenty of wood. So I'm in good shape. We know where we need to drill our hole, so I'm just going to take the drill here and just put one right in the center of this arm. Just not like that. Don't want to drill it too far because you'll drill through the other side and then you're going to have a hole to worry about once you start whittling. So there, I've got my dowel ready for it. So then I'm going to use my patented method of marking where the hole goes. Just take a pencil or something. I use one of these sketch pencils. Works real good. And I stick it in there and twist it around. As you can see, it leaves a little bit of graphite around that hole. And I'll turn this around, match up where I want it exactly, again, about right there. and just give it a little twist. And right there is where I want to drill my hole for the body. And the arm can match up perfectly, so I'll do that. So now just make a test fit here. Pick that dowel up with this thing on my finger. Probably, dowel's probably too long. It is, so I'll cut that down. There. Okay. Now, I'll take my pencil. Once I get it in position, remember he's going to be holding a lariat like this. So I want to make sure that I've got lots of room here for that lariat to hang without interfering with the body down here, and it does. So I'm okay there. So I'm just going to take my glove off here and this thumb thing. Look at it to the side so I get it exactly where I want it, which is right there. Generally, from the center of the shoulder to the hand is a straight line, like that. See there? You want that straight down, straight up and down. If I happen to line up the back of the arm straight up and down, see, it's too far forward, that doesn't look right. If I line up the lower part of the arm straight up and down, that's too far back, that doesn't look right. So I want to put it right in the center, just about right there, and that looks right. Now I'm going to tip it up, and I'm going to make me a mark here, and I'm going to make me another mark there, and that'll show me how to match these two things up when I glue it. And then I'm going to take my pencil, and I'm going to trace right around this line here where it hits the body. Okay, so I moved it already, so I just line that back up again, and I draw it not on the arm and on the body too. And then I can take that off. All right, now there, see, I have an indication on the arm of what I can carve off ahead of time, and I have an indication on the body what I can carve off if I need to, and I don't really need to carve anything because everything just looks good there. So let's just set this aside for a second, put my glove back on, find my finger protector, take the dowel out, and first off, I'm going to carve a couple of wrinkles here that will go underneath his arm, because I won't be able to do this very easily once that arm gets in place, right at the back. Just like that, see there? What I like to do is carve one big wrinkle and then a little wrinkle. Just let it bleed out. And be real neat about doing this, because once you get that arm locked in place, you're not going to be able to get in there with your knife anymore. There, see? See, I've carved it in there. And I want to go ahead and finish this down here, because again, once that arm's in there, it's going to be in the way of your doing this. And when you're making these wrinkles down here, always try to do it in such a way that it looks like the shirt is tucked into the pants, okay? That's what I'm doing here. See how I got one loop going in and then it goes up and disappears under the other one? That means that this area here folds over this piece of cloth there. And doing that type of wrinkle is very simple to do. I'll show you back here. Also note that on this side, how everything goes down towards this way, and on this side over here, everything comes down towards this way. Anyway, to make a wrinkle like that, just come in here, make a cut like that, take it off, see there I got that. Bring this one on down to the belt line, and then here, cut that little notch out of there, clean it up. Bring that on up here just a little bit, round it off. There, can you see that there? There's a good shadow. See there? How much nicer that makes that look. And you just kind of blend these wrinkles out as they come along back here. See there? Looks good. Okay, we've got that one done. Let me carry this one up here just a little bit farther. So let's see how that looks. That looks good. And here, let me look once more. That looks good. And here I want to do the same thing here. I want to carve a wrinkle here. Just let that bleed out there. Like that. Put her back together. Line her up. Try to get a shadow on there so where you can see that. See there, it looks good. Now we'll probably rework all these before we're done. But these in here, like I say, this shirt, this arm's going to be in the way, so we want to get all these done before we glue that arm down. Because that arm's going to be in the way. All right, now this one here, I can go ahead and carve down to my pencil line. And again, on those wrinkles, see I've done the same thing here that I've done around the bottom of this shirt. And you want to do that too, because again, once you glue the arm on, it's going to be rough to get in there to do that. See, he's got his shirt rolled up, so what we want to do is we want to make it look like one side folds over on the other. Just show you here real quick, and we'll continue. See there, see how that looks? Looks good. And we can just continue some of these around and tie them into the bottom ones. And it looks pretty good. See, it looks just like he's got his shirt just rolled up there. See? Looks good. Okay, so next step is I'm going to take this over to my little disc sander and sand this perfectly smooth here, because I want a glue joint that cannot be seen. Okay, and I'm going to do that now.